So the next set of questions is not about just your regular monohybrid crosses. This one is about codominant problems where both dominant genotypes will express equally. And what that means is that instead of just having the dominant trait show itself and then the recessive one being sort of in the shadows, if you were to have two dominant ones, both of them will express as the phenotype. And one really good example found in the real world is our blood types. So just as a recap about our blood types is that there are 4 blood types in humans, and that's type A, B, O, and AB. And the key thing about these blood types is that whenever you get a type A blood, that means that you have the A gene and it's a dominant trait. And when you have the B one, it means that you have the B trait, a B gene, which is your dominant one. And when you have the AB though, now you don't have the AB allele where it's just one distinct just for AB. You actually have both the A allele and the B allele expressed at the same time, so that's why you have AB. And for the O one, this is the recessive one. So this is when you actually don't have either the A or the B one being expressed. So how we write this is that instead of having a genotype of A or B or O just from before, we actually use the letter I to represent this. So whenever we want to show the genotype of type A blood, we would have the I and then have the superscript of A at the top. And for type A blood, you can have homozygous A such as this, or just like your regular monohybrid where you have your dominant A because your type A blood is dominant, and a recessive one of a lowercase I. So this is all the genotypes for type A blood. The next one is your type B, so we use I as a designation, and then we have B to showcase that, and you can see it's exactly the same as A, where the B could be homozygous or heterozygous. And then the next one, type AB blood, is where you have your A and also your B together. So this is the only combination that you can have for type AB blood. And for O, because it's homozygous recessive, it's going to be 2 lowercase letters like this. And that's your genotypes. So let's look at some problems. So the question here is, could a man with type B blood and a woman with type AB blood produce a child with type O blood? So that's the question. This is a very common question. So let's look at all the genotypes for type B blood first. So for the man, here's my man's genotype. I'm going to write and type B blood is in uppercase B. So it could be homozygous, such as this, homozygous dominant, or it could be heterozygous that looks like this. So then for the woman, this is type AB blood. I know that it has to be codominant. That means both A and B alleles are expressed. So this is my female. So then now I have 2 different combinations, and I have to look at both combinations to see, can either of those combinations produce a type O blood, which is your homozygous recessive, that you should have 2 lowercase i's. So let's start off with the first combination, which is your homozygous dominant. So I'm going to create my Punnett square like this, so I separate my 2 alleles, and then this one I'm going to put it on the side. So here's my alleles. And immediately you can pretty much, without doing the Punnett square, that you're not going to get the recessive one at all, because none of these ones have actually the recessive trait. But I can just finish this up for you. So this is my A, B, and then this is going to be my B, and this is going to be my A and B, and homozygous dominant for B. So you cannot get type O blood for this one. The next one is, again, you're going to see that even though you have one recessive allele, the other one doesn't. So in order to get type O blood, you need both recessive alleles. So you can see by not even doing the Punnett square that it's impossible to have type O blood, because you don't have 2 recessive alleles on both sides, both the male and the female. So this is the closest that we can get, but that's still type A and type B blood. So that's the first question. So the question to answer would be no, they cannot have a child with a type O blood. So let's look at the next one. What if the mother's type is type O and the father is type A. So let's look at this. So the genotype for type O is homozygous recessive. That's your 2 lowercase i's. And the father is A, so it could be either uppercase I, lowercase, or homozygous dominant, like that. So we have to try again both combinations, and you can pretty much see from the previous Punnett square that yeah, it is possible, because now we have 2 i's here, because that means that we have 2 lowercase I. As long as we have one that is recessive, then we can tell that we will have a type O blood. So let's go and finish this up, and this is our only combination that we will have or find type O genotype. So here's my type O genotype, which means I have 50% of it having a type O child if the dad was this genotype. But if the dad were to be this genotype, the chances is 0%, and whereas this one is 50%. Okay, so let's look at the next one. A woman has with type O blood and a man who is type AB blood are expecting a child. What are the possible blood types of this kid? You might want to pause this and try this question. So let's try this one. So a woman has type O blood, which is the genotype would be recessive homozygous, and the man is type AB. So this is going to be I A, which is dominant, and I dominant B. And again, you can immediately see that you cannot get homozygous recessive from this, because there's no recessive for the father's genotype. However, though, you can see that there are different kind of combinations that will come from this. So you have your heterozygous A blood and also heterozygous B blood, and the ratio between this is going to be 50-50. So you're going to have 50% of the offspring will have type A blood, and 50% of it will be type B blood, and that's going to be your final one. And your codominant sort of questions does not always have to apply to blood typing. It could also apply to other traits as well. So when you look at a this kind of question in cattle, a red bull is crossed with a white cow and will give you a roan bull. So what a roan bull is that you actually have both the red and the white one together. And this is another question that it's a codominant question, where when we look at this red bull, the genotype of this red bull is going to be, let's say, use the letter R, and the genotype will be a codominant one, so we actually have a homozygous dominant RR. And a white cow, because this is again a codominant, that means the dominant one will always be expressed. The white cow cannot be the recessive one, because as a codominant, it has to be dominant. So we actually have to give it another letter to represent the genotype, which we can just use W. And because it's a codominant, it has to be your homozygous dominant, because both of these has to express. If it's recessive, then you won't have it, right? So then when you set this up, then you can have your RR, your 2 alleles up here, and your 2 alleles down here, and you complete your Punnett square, and you're going to see that you're going to have a bunch of 2 different kinds of letters: RW, 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 and RW. So what the RW actually represents is that it's a codominant. That means the red one, which is your R, will also express along with the white one, which is your W. And the effect of having both red and white is not getting you like a blended version. That's not a codominant. You actually get both of them expressed. What that means that if you're to look at the fur of this bull, you actually will get red fur, and then you have white fur, and red fur, white, white, just like the picture above. So then that means that you actually have both of them being expressed at the same time. So don't confuse this with your incomplete dominance, where in an incomplete dominance is a blended version, which we'll see in the next video. In a codominance, that means that both of them will coexist in a way. Codominant will, both of them will show itself. So hopefully this video has helped you with codominance, and make sure that you understand how to do the blood typing questions, and also with other ones that are related to codominant questions as well. Thanks for watching.